Here is Dr. Alain Presencer as he appears on the front cover of his album. He was very busy at the time. Sadisc Records had arranged all sorts of radio shows for him and appearances here, there and everywhere. So he was very busy spreading the word on Tibetan singing bowls. Here on the back of the album is a picture of the instruments used on the album. When I met Alan, he had a lot more in his collection when we did these performances. But here we can see an assortment of instruments. Now, the three bowls that he gave names to were the talking bowl, the panic bowl and the star bowl. Now right in the centre here above the conch shell trumpet is the star bowl, which is said to have 8-pointed star inside, and Alan thinks it sounds like a pulsar. Here we have the talking bowl that Alan speaks of. He says he played it to an abbot, and the abbot said it was the sound of a mounting demon crying out to be returned to its home. Just above it here we see a panic bowl, and there is one the other side of the large bowl in this collection. This is the LP The Singing Bowls of Tibet, which was released in 1981, and it features Dr. Alain Presencer, who had a collection of Tibetan singing bowls and conch shells, trumpets, horns, all sorts of things, thigh bone trumpets. And Alan was a Tibetologist and poet, and travelled extensively in Ladakh, Sikkim, Bhutan, Nepal and illegally Tibet. This is back in the 70s and the 80s. So I first met Alan in 1981 for a concert that was organised by Richard Temple, who owned Temple Galleries that specialised in icon paintings. The concert was arranged that David Hikes, the leading exponent of harmonic singing from America, New York, Alain Presencer and myself would all work together. We would do a solo set each, and then we would improvise as a trio, none of us having ever met each other and no rehearsals whatsoever. As I already had singing bowls in my collection since 1971, almost 40 years ago now. When I met Alain, then I began to include far more singing bowls that were from Tibet, and some very rare bowls, including the panic bowl, which is the purpose of this short video, is to illustrate what is a panic bowl, what Dr. Alain Presencer called a panic bowl as he was told by the Bonpo Lamas, and also the talking bowl and what he called the star bowl. The star bowl has an 8-pointed star in its base on the inside. The talking bowl is of a very distinct shape and sound, as is the panic bowl. This year I've had quite a lot of contacts from people through emails or phone calls or meetings who claim to have bought or own a panic bowl or a talking bowl, and it always turns out that it is not the case. So this is really for clarification, so we know what we're talking about when we use the term panic bowl and when we use the term talking bowl. We're going to have to come up with other names for these bowls that sellers are selling as the very rare talking bowl or panic bowl. The so-called talking bowls that are for sale are actually water bowls, of which I have over 40 in my collection. So to say they are rare is not the truth. After this initial meeting with Alain, concert, we went on to perform together several times in the early 1980s, 82 and 1983, one notable occasion being at Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club, where we also had the pleasure of having Willie Rushton, who read from the Tibetan Book of the Dead whilst I played on my large equipment behind him. At that point I still have a lot. I have about 45 gongs in my collection, over 350 bells, and then there's 350 Tibetan singing bowls and so on. So I had a large collection of instruments, and Alain had his large collection of primarily Tibetan singing bowls. And he would talk about them. I would generally perform at these events. Alain would perform and give a talk about the bowls. Now to the bowls. This is a talking bowl. Notice its unique shape and its unique sound, which I will demonstrate shortly. This, and anything like it, is what's sold as a talking bowl. A lovely sound, don't get me wrong, it's lovely in itself, but it's not a talking bowl. It doesn't sound anything like a talking bowl and doesn't look anything like a talking bowl. So if you've got one of these at home, you've been told it's a talking bowl, you're going to have to come up with another name for it. Because it is not what has been termed a talking bowl 3 decades ago. So we have this, or anything that works with water, and this. This has to be played vertically. There's no way you can put water inside it. Or as in one email I got, you can put your dough inside it and make bread or cakes. No. This is something altogether different. Very sacred. Here is the talking bowl. That is the correct sound. It may even sound as if the bowl is broken or cracked. It's a strange sound, but it is the correct sound. I've come across 4 of these in my lifetime, but one of them didn't make that sound, so only 3 in a sense. And this is what could be sold as a talking bowl. As you can see, looks nothing like a talking bowl. Nothing at all. And as you can hear, it sounds nothing like a talking bowl. What, a decade or so ago, what people were calling talking bowls, we over here in England called a jump bowl, simply because we already had a talking bowl. This is what we refer to as a jump bowl. The bowl which I had water in a moment ago that works well with water. Now a bowl that worked in this way, which is also quite rare, rarer than the water bowls really, was called a talking bowl. But as I say, we had to come up with a new term which we called it a jump bowl. Jumping between those 2 pitches. Thank you.